Hi, team. I want to talk to you today about two endpoints that are no longer going to be supported when trying to reach one of our hub clouds. And those two endpoints are eumdm.boomi.com and mdm.boomi.com. These two endpoints were deprecated back in the fall of last year, and support for them will be removed very soon. In order to ensure that your disruption is avoided, you're going to want to change these URL endpoints to the following. If you're using eumdm.boomi.com, you're going to want to change it to c01-gbr.hub.boomi.com. Or if you're using mdm.boomi.com, you're going to want to change the URL to c01-usa-east.boomi.hub.boomi.com. Both of these changes are mentioned in the community article that describes this upcoming change, as well as our help guide. And the reference to the help guide and those specific endpoints can be found in our help guide and within the community article down at the bottom. Let's take a quick look at some of this in action, some of these changes and some of the use cases where you're going to need to make some changes. Let's start with the HTTP client. If you're using the HTTP client, come into the connection component, look at the URL field. If you're using either of the two endpoints that are being removed, you're going to want to switch it. So it's simple as switching the string for the host name and using the appropriate replacement URL. So because I'm using the EU MDM host, we're simply going to come in and paste in the CO1 GBR host, save the connection, save the process, and redeploy it to the environments where it was deployed previously. The next example we'll look at is the use of our Boomi Master Data Hub connector. In there, if you're looking at the connection, you're going to come into the URL field, look at the host name, and if this is in this case, it's actually correct, but if it was one of the old prior, if it had been something like this host here, if it had been like that, we would come in and replace it with the appropriate host name. We're going to come in here and leave the trailing /MDM in place when using the master data hub connector. So once again, we'll save the connection, save the process, and redeploy it. Now, if we're using an HTTP client to use our hub API using the master data hub REST APIs, there's a whole suite of repository APIs that can be used. These are all listed here in our help guide, and pointer to that is in the community article. These various APIs take a hostname parameter. That hostname needs to be correct. So if we come in here, again, this is correct. We have a GBR hostname, but if you had been using the EU hostname here, you're going to want to update it to the GBR connection like this looks like here. Then you would come back in and save it, save the process, and redeploy. Okay. It's also possible you may have some third-party tools that are using one of these old endpoints. You're going to want to get those updated. My first suggestion would be to look for where in that tool the connection is made to the hub endpoint and update the URL. Further questions should probably be directed at the third-party vendor who would have better insight into where that connection information is stored and how to update it. Finally, for any of these connectors that are extensible, meaning in extensions here, if you have a connection for which the URL is extendable, you want to come in and check on the actual environment itself. And here we have a molecule with environment extensions. Check the connection itself and make sure that the extended value is correct. So in this case, it is still using the old value of eumdm.boomi.com, and we're going to want to change that to the GBR version and then save the environment extensions, and we're in good shape again. So we come in here, do this, okay, and then we're good to go. Hopefully this helps.